Yesterday is gone, tomorrow has not yet come. We have only today. So let us begin. Welcome to 9 Minutes with Nefertiti.
Hello everybody, welcome to conversation number 2. This conversation is about loving ourselves. I hope you have had a good day, whether it's just getting started or if it's ending for you. I'm so glad that you decided to spend just a few minutes with me. This conversation is going to be about loving ourselves, and it is going to be hard for me to keep this conversation to 9 minutes because loving Nefertiti has not been an easy journey. And so I would just like to share a few things that I've learned along my way in hopes that I might be able to help someone else out there. So I don't know if you've noticed the book behind me in the first 2 videos. The book is called I Like Me, and the author is Nancy Carlson. It is an amazing book that I used to read to my kindergarten and preschool children. And whether you have kids in your life or not, I encourage you to get a copy. It's a good read for an adult and for children. You know, in the book, the author uses very simple language to help us understand why she likes herself. And did I tell you she's a pig? Yeah, she's a pig, which I think is a good part. And again, using really clear and simple language, the author tells us through the character depiction that we are going to mess up. We are going to have days that are sometimes not the best. And no matter what body you are in, it is possible to love yourself. And so I love it, and I encourage you to get a copy of it. Again, the author is Nancy Carlson, and the book is entitled I Like Me. Let's think about this for a little bit. The Bible gives us many, many, many commandments. There are many commandments in the Bible. Deuteronomy 6:5 says we are to love God with all of our heart. That's not just a statement, it's a commandment. And again, we talked about that in our first conversation.
Consider also Mark chapter 12, verses 30 through 31.
Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. The second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no greater commandment than this. Wow. Don't miss the part that says, love thy neighbor as you love thyself. Love thy neighbor as I love thyself. So conversation 3 is going to be about loving others. But if I'm reading Mark 30 and 31 correctly, it says I can't love my neighbor or anybody else unless I first love myself. Wow, that's big, and we don't want to miss that, because I think I did for a long time, that I couldn't love anybody else until I was first able to fully love Nefertiti. So let me start by telling you this. I have always been hard on myself. Always. And when I think it was in first grade, my teacher said to my mom, either during a call or during a report card, that, you need to stop being so hard on Nefertiti. It's causing her anxiety and she's not able to do her best. My mom said, I am not being hard on her. It's her being hard on her. And she was right. My mom was cool. She was supportive. She always wanted us to do our best. Now, if a C was your best, she was fine with that in that situation, knowing that you had done your best. But me, I don't know where I got this from, but I always felt like I had to have it all together. And again, I don't know where I got that from. I think I might have watched too much TV as a child. The what you see on TV will start to make you think you're inadequate and you're not enough when you look at what's going on there, and then you look at what's happening in your own life. So maybe it was because I was watching too much TV. We'll talk about that in another conversation. But here's what my years in this world have taught me so far. Here's what I know so far. After my relationship with God, the second most important loving relationship I need to have is with myself. So when I say we need to love ourselves, I'm not talking about being stuck up or conceited or arrogant. That worldly kind of self-confidence. That's not what I'm talking about. Nobody wants to be around somebody that is arrogant or boastful. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm encouraging during this conversation the type of love where we are appreciating everything about the way God made us. That simple. Just appreciating everything about us that God has done. The good, the bad, the somewhere in between. That's what I mean when I say loving ourselves. For a long time, I didn't love myself. And for me, not loving myself showed up in low self-esteem. It showed up in me not being a risk taker or showing levels of initiative. It showed up in me being sad and oftentimes wanting to be by myself. And so there's a part of me that's my natural tendency to want to sometimes be by myself. But there were some unhealthy times where I just had moments of isolation. And as I reflect, I also think that not loving myself showed up in the company that I kept. Okay. And after a while, I just wanted better for myself. I just wanted better for myself. And so I wanted to be able to look in the mirror and love everything about who I saw without wishing some of it was different or wishing I had something that somebody else had. I just wanted to love who I saw in the mirror. So remember from conversation number 1, love is an action. So when you want something, you got to do something. Just wanting it enough is not enough. To love Nefertiti required action. And so I could take 12 different of these recordings and not even bring our conversation about my self-love and how I got to the place where I think I am now. It would take me 12 conversations to tell you, and I probably wouldn't get it all said in 12 conversations. But in this conversation, because I want to make sure I get it, bring it full circle, and then be able to close this out. Here's what I found for me, just for me. Calling it as I see it is what helped me to start loving myself. Calling it as I see it.
Hi, everybody. I knew the message of talking about self-love was going to be something difficult for me to keep under 9 minutes. And so instead of rushing the message, I have decided to cut part 2, our conversation on loving ourselves, into 2 parts. So you've just listened to part 1. Stay tuned to part 2 of conversation number 2, loving ourselves, and you will learn more about what I meant when I said self-love began for me when I started to call it as I see it. Thank you for tuning in, and please check out part 2.